Right. Well, my name's Bo, and I'm originally from Hawaii. I moved to the mainland to go to art school, and from there I decided to move to San Diego, and that's where I started my company, Edibles List and Edibles Magazine. I moved from San Diego to Los Angeles, and now I stay in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I'm licensed for manufacturing and distribution operations, as well as dispensaries in California and Oklahoma. I also do consulting for a number of different companies, both grows, manufacturing, dispensaries in those states, and also in New York. Today I'm going to talk about cannabis in pets, treating animals with CBD and THC. So the first thing to know is that animals also have an endocannabinoid system, just like humans do. And in that endocannabinoid system, we have CB1 and CB2 receptors in the brain and through the nervous central system. And with that, those CB receptors allow us to intake cannabinoids exogenously and endogenously. Now that means outside the body and inside the body. When we're born, the very first time that we have cannabinoids is through the mother's breast milk. And there's an old wives' tale that in Japan and Asia, when men get sick, which rich businessmen get sick, they go to midwives to drink breast milk to get cannabinoids, because the cannabinoids are very healing for the system. Outside of breast milk, there is no other opportunity that we get cannabinoids in our system other than taking something like CBD exogenously outside the body from in. And so cats, dogs, horses, mice, rats, we all have an endocannabinoid system. And everybody's endocannabinoid system reacts just a little bit differently from animal species to animal species. And if you guys don't know what CBD is, it's cannabidiol. It's one of the main profiles in the plant of cannabis. There's THC that gets you high. There's CBD that doesn't get you high. It's non-psychoactive. And then there are other profiles of the plant like CBG, CBN, THCA, CBGA, and there's about 400 others that we don't have enough research to even show what all those different profiles of the plant are. CBD's been legal and descheduled through the federal government under the 2018 Hemp Farm Bill. Cannabinoids are both modular and reactive, which means that it adapts to your system when you take it. It's non-psychoactive, it's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory and a neuroprotectant. It activates serotonin in the brain, and it brings your body into homeostasis. The government actually has a CBD patent for all uses of its medicinal benefits as an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and neuroprotectant. And that patent is licensed out to GW Pharmaceuticals for Sativex and Epidiolex, which is a drug for epilepsy and seizures that costs $36,000 a month. And you could use the real plant for a tincture that's $30 a month. There are many reasons that you may want to dose your pets. Some of them may be chronic pain, inflammation, arthritis, hip dysplasia, separation anxiety, nervousness. Sometimes cats, when they get older, get dementia, and it helps calm their dementia and their anxiety. Cancer's a really good one. Stroke, seizures, epilepsy, neurological issues. Stress or environmental factors like fireworks, the weather, noise, gastrointestinal issues. Allergies is another one, which can, dermatitis, pruritus is itching, like chronic itching. It will help increase appetite, and it helps increase the quality of life, and it can also be used for aggressive dogs and dogs that may need help with socialization. In 2023, in February, the National Institute of Health published a study titled Scientific Validation of Cannabidiol for Management of Dog and Cat Diseases. That study found that CBD improves clinical signs associated with osteoarthritis, pruritus, and epilepsy. In November 2021, the National Institute of Health published a study called Cannabidiol-Based Natural Health Products for Companion Animals. And what they said was that recent advancements in the management of anxiety, pain, and inflammation showed that there's evidence that chronic osteoarthritic pain in dogs can be reduced by supplementation with CBD. In May 2023, just last year, a new review began suggesting there appears to be cautious optimism regarding the utilization of CBD in conjunction with other therapeutics for a range of disorders. This review is currently under a clinical study right now where they're reviewing the data, and it's primarily focusing on the current scientific research on the efficacy of CBD on seizure, anxiety, osteoarthritis, and atopic dermatitis. Another 2023 study found that oral CBD medication was well tolerated in horses. CBD is extensively metabolized and shows high volume of tissue distribution with the resulting extended elimination phase. So what that means is in horses and even dogs, they metabolize CBD a lot faster than we do. So we might take 24 hours to metabolize, they will take 4. So now that I live in Oklahoma, one of the professors at Oklahoma State University, Dr. Laura, produced an article that said, one of the things scientific research has found is that oral absorption of CBD is low in cats and dogs. When hemp CBD is given by mouth, the liver, which is responsible for removing toxins from the bloodstream, greatly reduces the concentration of circulating CBD product. Once in the bloodstream, CBD is eliminated quickly. Half of the circulating level is gone in an average of 4 hours. The Humane Society of the United States says CBD and hemp products are safe for pets. They can be especially effective at reducing pain, and veterinarians have seen CBD help dogs with chronic arthritis pain. They walk more comfortably, for example, and ongoing research suggests that CBD might also help make seizures less intense and less frequent. There are many ways you can dose your pets. Tincture is the easiest one. You can use it orally or in their food. You can give them pet treats. The only thing to note with pet treats is that if you're getting them from like a place like Petco, they probably don't actually have any form of cannabidiol in them. Those are usually hemp seed oil products that advertise that they're hemp derived but don't contain any active CBD. So if you're going to try and find it, you want to get it from a source that's reputable or that you can trust. Vet CBD is a good one. I do actually have some pet tincture at my booth, the Edibles Magazine booth, booth 213. You can also use topicals for your dogs for dermatitis, itching, arthritis. The only thing with that is you're going to want to use a cone so they don't lick it off, because the second they lick it off, it's no longer effective. Suppositories is another way that you can dose your dog. Many people don't know that that's an option. But if your dog's got some kind of colon cancer or gastrointestinal issue, you can get CBD suppositories and use them rectally, and it goes straight to the problem without being metabolized and broken down with the stomach acid in the liver. Another way that you might not know is eye drops. I used some eye drops that we manufactured in Oklahoma for my 18-year-old husky, and it pretty much cured her blindness. We also made some THC, 0.001% THC, super micro low dose, for Eric Roberts' cat. That's Julia Roberts' brother. And they swear that it cured their cat's blindness. So with consistent and regular use, you can improve a lot of the conditions that animals seem to be affected through age, just as humans are affected by the aging process as well. Something to note when you're learning about how to dose your animal, you want to start low and go slow, just like you would a human. Now, primarily right now we're talking about CBD and not THC, but it is important for them to stay hydrated anytime that you're giving them any kind of medication so that their body can process what you're giving them. My recommendation is using 1 full dropper of a low-dose CBD tincture 3 times a day and slowly work up to 3 full droppers 3 times a day. Use the appropriate delivery method intended for the issue being treated. So if it's a dermatitis issue, the easiest way to deal with that's a topical, as opposed to trying to treat that with a tincture orally. So when it comes to THC, can I use THC for my pets? The short answer is yes, but very, very cautiously and at minute micro doses. It also depends on the size and what kind of animal. As a general rule of thumb, veterinarians recommend 1 milligram of THC per dose per day, just to see where your animal starts. THC is more effective at treating cancer than CBD alone. So there are a number of studies that have taken place in Spain that prove THC kills cancer cells in a healthy, non-necroptic way. So when you do chemotherapy, the cells commit suicide in a way that creates an acid dosis that basically damages the liver and the kidneys. And THC kills those cells in a way that isn't necroptic and doesn't cause that issue. This is my husky right here. Her name was Misty. She passed away in 2021. She lived to the old age of 18 years old. The magazine cover on the left, she was 10 years old. The magazine cover on the right, she was 15 years old. So we've done a number of different features on her talking about pets and cannabis. She was a real good-looking cover girl. And you can tell that, you know, she barely looks any different between a 5-year difference into her well-old ages. What was interesting about Misty was when I first started cannabis, I started when I was young, but when I was in San Francisco after art school and I got her and she was just a puppy, she would take my flower that I got from the dispensaries and she would play with it, rip open the bag, take it outside in the yard, and then she would prefer to not eat the buds that weren't activated. She knew with her nose that if she ate my already vaporized weed, that it had been decarboxylated, and that weed now had D9, Delta 9, which is the active THC, which you usually get in the form of combustion or through heat. So she wouldn't eat my fresh bud, but she would eat all of my already been vaped weed. And that was something that I hadn't understood until about 10 years later when I started doing the magazine heavily and got very deep into the industry. And then I finally realized that it was the THC that she wanted. It wasn't the smell. She wasn't trying to mess with me and play with me. She herself was looking to get dosed. And throughout her 18-year-old life, she would go through my tote bags when I'd come home from an expo like this and I'd have edibles in it, and she would go and eat them to treat herself. When she got to about 10 years old, she started getting arthritis in her paws, and when she was 2 years old, she was actually hit by a car in San Francisco on the Great Highway, and she was lucky, miracle, hand of God, saved her life. She didn't break any bones. She got hit at 45 miles an hour, but she did develop hip dysplasia and arthritis in her hips later on in life. And so what we used was CBD, but she would always tell me, she would walk up to me and tell me, "Arf, you know, I want the weed. I need the THC. I need the analgesic effect." She very much communicated much like a human. She was part wolf. And then, you know, if I didn't give it to her, she would just walk past the coffee table and lick what was in the coffee table or try to eat an already been smoked roach. So yes, you can give THC to your animal, but it has to be a tiny, tiny amount. And in the circumstances that you want to use THC is specifically for cancer. So when they've got cancer, you need the THC to kill the cancer cells. I do have some magazines that I can share with everybody with this particular story, talking about her very, very long life. But she definitely was, and that was her getting dosed. So she just took the cannabis. Like that particular one was a whole plant extract, and we would just drop it in her mouth, and she knew that it caused her pain relief. And so she would just open up her mouth and lap it up. And if your animal is looking at if you're looking at potentially giving your animal some CBD, you can put it directly in their mouth sublingually. If they don't do that, or they've got, maybe they're finicky, you can put it in their food as well. That was Misty's story. When I got to Oklahoma, I was introduced to a woman who had a horse who had melanoma and rectal cancer. The horse was well into her 20s. And this particular horse's story was the same exact story as the woman I met. We covered this story interviewing this woman with her horse Tori, and she was making a full plant cannabis extraction and putting it into her horse's meal. This story made its way to a friend of a friend through her church group, and then she got in touch with me because she needed some cannabis for her horse. So just less than 2 years ago, it was 2 months after my Misty died, I met this woman, Amy, and her horse's name was Misty. And my name's Bo, and the horse's companion's name was also Bo. So it very much felt like a serendipitous thing where I was meant to be here to help this horse. And so we manufactured special horse suppositories and put them in. And within a week, I mean, it was an immediate, as soon as we put the suppository in and put the topical over where her melanoma was, it was like the clouds opened up and the sun came open and she like stood up and like wiggled her tail. And it was watching her have some pain relief for the very first time. And so from there, we started giving her the tincture, and then we started getting to higher and higher doses of CBD with small THC, and we would put that in her feed along with the suppositories, and it extended the horse's life for about a year. She got another year with this horse. The horse was already in its late 20s, but it was this woman's baby that she had gone competing and doing all of the racing with and all of that. And she was just so grateful to be open to taking this medicine that we were just providing and donating for this cause to help this horse. It changed this woman's life, and she was very grateful. And it also opened her mind to the possibility that cannabis is a medicine and not something that's known to be bad or not good or illegal. So just last month, I lost my 20-year-old cat, Zeus. Zeus, Mr. Wiggles King Kong, and he lived to the ripe old age of 20. He did have some dementia in his older years. He was a tabby cat that was born in the backyard of someone's house in San Francisco that I got free on Craigslist, and he used to be a 20-pound cat in his younger years. As he got older and started wasting away with the muscles, we started giving him the CBD, and that always kept his appetite up. But he definitely did the yowling and was a little confused sometimes with dementia, and the CBD really helped. And then as he got even older, we had to add THC into his regimen because he was definitely suffering from arthritic pain. This was something that, he was my little baby. He could have been an adult child in college right now, and we all treat our fur babies like they're our little children. But if I didn't have the CBD and the THC, he definitely would not have made it to 20 years old. My other cat, Venus, she's 18 years old, and in December, I got home from a business trip going to an expo, and she actually fell off this counter right here and slipped a disc, and we weren't sure if she had had a stroke or if she had slipped a disc, and we went to the vet, and he gave her medicine for both anti-inflammation as well as stroke medicine, so in case she had a blood clot that may have moved. But it turned out that it was a slip disc and not a stroke. And we've been giving her CBD and THC combined with acupuncture, E-stim acupuncture, as well as red light infrared therapy. And within less than 3.5 weeks, she was healed. She's still going through the healing process. Even for a human, a slip disc can take up to 4 months to totally heal. It's only been about 2. And she can walk normally again. She still has a little wobble, but she definitely has arthritis. And the thing about cats, if you're treating a cat, the cats don't tell you that they're hurting. Misty, my dog, would tell me she was hurting. She'd sit there and her paw would cramp up and she'd yell. And the cats don't do that until they're already deteriorating. So she's, this cat is a 6-pound cat, and we give her a full dropper twice a day of a 250 milligram CBD tincture. And during the first 3 weeks of her with slip disc, we started using THC as well because we ran out of the pain medications from the vet that was $10 a pill. And so after the first week, we were like, I think we should go back to the THC because those pills are really bad for their kidney and their liver. It'll shut down their organs with too much overusage. Another animal that I helped, that I actually met here at the expo, this family moved to New Jersey, and they had a Chihuahua that had cancer. And so we started sending her RSO, and that RSO cured the cancer. The cancer disappeared in less than 2.5 months. And then they stopped using the RSO. And so within a month, the cancer came back, and then it became too much and too late. So what's important to note, especially in the cancer circumstance, is that you have to keep dosing. You must keep up with the dose. Even if it's switching from THC to CBD once the cancer's gone, it's a maintenance dose, even for humans. Otherwise, the cancer will come back extremely aggressively. There are a number of different alternative treatments to consider as well in conjunction with for a holistic approach for treating animals when they're in this kind of pain. Something that I did for my dog Misty, we took her to aquatherapy, hydrotherapy. So that was something where the weightlessness and getting her to swim in a controlled environment allowed her to heal and get her hips a little bit better and feeling like she wasn't in so much pain. It was a very noticeable thing. Every week that we would go do the hydrotherapy, within a day, she'd be walking better, she'd be feeling better. It was extremely noticeable. The other thing you could do is sound therapy. Some people might think it's, a little hoopla-y, but it's something that can help with the vibrations. When we went to acupuncture for her, she was about 13 years old. When I started doing acupuncture, she had gotten to the point at which we thought that she was going to pass away because she was real lethargic. She didn't want to move around. We thought that I was going to lose her in less than 6 weeks. So we took her to a vet that also does acupuncture and used Western and Eastern medicine as well. And in that treatment, in this picture, oops, sorry about that, you can see she, when she was getting the acupuncture, he would use a Qigong sound machine that's supposed to mimic the sound of 1,000 monks doing Qigong together at the same time. So medical Qigong is a Chinese practice where they move the Qi, the energy, and then try to clear the body of any blockages or negative energy. So that's Eastern medicine. And, of course, massage therapy is going to help when you've got issues like arthritis or, wasting away of muscle tissue. A fresh food diet also can help. So if there are any kind of allergies that a dog has, chicken tends to be one of the biggest allergies and inflammatory causes for diseases for animals, and grain and corn. So if you can switch to like a raw food or a fresh food diet, that's better than anything that comes out of pedigree or IMS. At one point in Misty's life, I had switched her to pedigree, or I grabbed a bag of pedigree because they didn't have her grain-free dog food at the Costco or store, and within 2 weeks, her coat got dull, she was lethargic. It was like an extremely noticeable difference in her energy levels after switching to an inferior dog food. And when she got old at that point, about 13, 14 years old, we started going to like the Whole Foods or the butcher, and we'd go pick up chicken livers and feed her raw and cooked chicken livers. The livers have the most amount of nutrients out of any other organ in the body. It's super good for you. And she would just eat that thing like she was a wolf, tear it up, and it would give her the extra nutrition that she needed to be able to keep her muscles without wasting away. So here. There are some other dietary and lifestyle changes you could do. This is her when she was 13 years old on the left in the radio flyer. This is when I thought she was going to die. And she lived another 5 years after that once we started the acupuncture. And I put her in that thing to try to wheel her around because I lived in downtown LA. And she took one look around and was like, nope. Jumped right out of it and was like, I'm not going through this embarrassment. And she herself made herself get better because she did not want to be seen in that thing. Same thing with 16, 17 years old, started getting that hip dysplasia. We had to use the hip carrier. I bought her a real expensive, extra large dog wheelchair, and we used that thing twice, and she took one look at me and was like, nope. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm fine. And right after that, she's like, look, I'll show you. I don't need this. But like I was saying, allergies can be from grain, corn, wheat, chicken. You can also supplement with glucosamine. When we went to the vet acupuncturist, he actually prescribed her a special curcumin, which is the organic version of the turmeric. So we would put turmeric, curcumin, bone broth, collagen, fish oil, and glucosamine in her dog food, and that's the same whole mix that we give Buddy, her companion, who's now 10. He was 5 in that photo. And obviously regular exercise, once they get to the older ages, they need to keep moving. Even though they're herding, they still need to get up and walk around to keep that muscle tissue. Sometimes when it comes to like the need for using cannabis or CBD for aggression, some of that can be combined with training or socialization. Sometimes animals have issues because they just weren't socialized enough to how to get along with other dogs, cats, whatever it might be. And a lot of that comes down to training. But that can be used in conjunction with CBD. Now, in the event that your animal gets a hold of too much THC and becomes overdosed and too high, there is the antidote, which is CBD. CBD prevents the liver from metabolizing THC. So a lot of the times you'll see like a ratio tincture that's like 1-to-1 or 20-to-1, and it's considered a balanced ratio that prevents you from being too high. Just as well, if you are too high or an animal's too high, the first thing you should do is try to give them some CBD, and that should take them down from being too high. And there's definitely evidence and studies to support that. Now, if you do end up in a situation where you're worried about your animal, or if it's not a big dog and it's a small dog like a Chihuahua and it's overdosed, don't panic. The first thing you want to do is keep them hydrated, and they probably won't even want to get up and drink because they'll probably be comatose. So what you can do is use a little syringe or a dropper to get water in their mouth to make sure they stay hydrated. Because when you go to the vet, the only thing that they can do is give an IV for hydration. There's nothing else they can do to make them stop being high aside from hydrate them. With Misty, there was one time as a manufacturer of edibles, I had a room filled with like 500, 300 milligram cookies, and she broke into that room and ate half the cookies. She was high for a week straight, and she was diarrhea for 5 days straight and peeing all over the place for 5 days straight, and then she was fine. But she clearly wanted it. And so one of the things that they lose is control of their bladders when they are overdosed or too high on THC. You can induce vomiting if you use a 1-to-1 ratio of hydrogen peroxide with water. You can squirt that in their mouth with a little syringe or dropper, and that will induce vomiting. And then if they vomit, then it gets rid of what's in their stomach. As I mentioned, CBD. And then once you get through 1 through 5, at that point, if you feel like you need to go to the vet, definitely go to the vet and get an IV for them. It'll probably be about $1,000, but if it's a small animal, then that's probably the right route to go. If it's a larger animal, they're going to metabolize it pretty quickly. Less than 8-9 hours, they should be I'm just tired, not high anymore. You can read more about all of this information on ediblesmagazine.com. We've got some magazines for you guys if you guys are interested with the story of Misty and the horse story. I love animals. It's a big part of my life and my heart, and I'm so happy that I can share with you today my stories and some of the studies that are recently available. Well, because cannabis is a Schedule I drug, there's not enough research out there to prove one or anything. Something that happened in California with legalization was they actually made it explicitly illegal for for veterinarians to sell or recommend CBD. But the very first thing when we went to our acupuncturist, who was Western vet, Eastern acupuncturist treating animals, he straight told us that CBD was the way to go, and it does wonders, and he's never seen anything like it. In addition to all the other things that we were doing to treat Misty, CBD was highly recommended, and our vet actually told us that he used to sell it. He sold it until legalization came, and then they couldn't sell it anymore, and the veterinary board said that they couldn't. Now, the veterinary board has changed their stance on that now that there is some data and there are some studies to prove that CBD does help with pain and inflammation. You can also use it on, mice and rats. Any mammal has an endocannabinoid system. There are even studies that have been done on dolphins using cannabis and cannabinoids to treat dolphins. Reptiles, however, do not have an endocannabinoid system, and so it won't work for reptiles. They're cold-blooded. So if you get a chance, you can download our app and read some more information there. It's in both the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. And I appreciate you guys coming out and listening to this presentation. Feel free to ask me any questions if you get a chance. Our booth is booth 213 outside, straight that way, the Edibles Magazine booth. I do have some CBD dog treats as well as pet tincture for cats and dogs and horses, if anybody's interested. Thank you so much for your guys' time.
Ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Two questions.
Yes.
First is, have you worked with any other botanicals as included in some of the edibles you made in the side or in addition to?
Yeah, well, we'll add in fish oil or, like I said, curcumin, turmeric, collagen. Usually what we'll do is just add that into the dog food for like a dog, and he'll just eat it with like some goodies and treats on top. Mostly with my particular tincture that I manufacture for my animals that I have, it's avocado oil based, and it's the only oil that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So I try to keep it really simple, because when we're giving them the dose of the tincture, if it has any kind of extra weird taste to it, they don't want to eat it. So if it's just a straight non-flavored sort of oil, or maybe just a little fish oil in it, then it's more enticing for them to eat or take it or be willing to take it. If it's got like an extra pungent like taste or odor to it, they're not going to want to eat it.
My point was also adding something like kava, an extract of kava.
You know, I haven't used kava. There's definitely not enough research and studies to show how kava affects animals. It does have that like relaxation effect, something just like, you know, kratom does for humans as well. I haven't tried kava for my animals yet at all, but other botanicals, yes. And there are other Chinese herbs that you can use, yes, for sure.
And my final point is regarding the RSO. You spoke to the work I was doing many years ago in LA before CBD really took off. We were making RSO product, but then we also, because of the extraction procedure, we could take away all that chlorophyll and fatty material and waxes. The difference in the efficacy was very striking.
Very much so. You want to get rid of like the plant material and the chlorophyll because they can't actually digest that. That's very true. And then the other thing to note with RSO is that it very much does get them high. And so they have to be prepared for that. We were invited to Jamaica to cover a medical cannabis resort where a doctor was doing treatments for cannabis out there. And so what he found was, and this is in humans, the dose to kill cancer is 2,400 milligrams a day for 3 months straight, and that will kill the cancer. And so you can apply that same theory to animals. However, 2,400 milligrams a day is pretty much comatose for 3 months straight. So then the way to combat that is to start the tolerance with low dose and dose up, but then also use CBD to keep that baseline so they're not too high. But I mean, that's great to hear. It's hard when they have the cancer because the best way is RSO. It's going to kill the cancer, but it is going to get them high, and it is going to be concerning, you know, that they're too high. And so that's something that you just kind of have to deal with and help them get through that process, you know, if you want to see them heal from it. Most people are using it for pain management, or most vets and even oncology doctors will say cannabis or CBD, it will help with the symptoms, but it's not a cure. But there is evidence to suggest that it is the cure. We just can't say that, you know? Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to clarify, it's a general one. So you said the THC percent, you know, that should be 0.001%.
That was for eye drops, because eye drops, and it's not widely available. There used to be a company in California that made them and sold them in the medical dispensaries. We started manufacturing them personally for my animals, and my mom actually uses it right here. This is my mother. She swears by the eye drops. She says it's helped her floaters, and it helps with her degenerative in her eyes. So that's specifically for eye drops, which is non-psychoactive at all, but what it does is reduce the inflammation and swelling. So really good for like glaucoma or cataracts. 1 milligram is the starting dose to try to figure out where your animal is, or get them on the track of knowing what the animal's dose is. 1 milligram. Now, Misty, who was, you know, the expert husky, she could probably take 20 to 50 milligrams and be fine. But that was her, you know. Every animal, just like humans, are different. So everybody has a different liver, and everybody metabolizes differently. And the same thing with dogs and animals and cats. Each one will metabolize differently. The key thing is to figure out like what your source is going to be for your medicine or supply. Because if you're just getting it from the smoke shop or wherever, it's not regulated enough where it's mandatory lab tested. So you may be buying something that doesn't have any CBD in it at all, just like what's marketed at Petco or PetSmart. Any other questions? No? Feel free to come talk to me at my booth. I've got some magazines if anybody wants any. Thank you so much for your time.